a bizarre turn in the fight over Christine Blasey Ford's accusations of sexual assault against SCOTUS nominee Brett Kavanaugh. A series of tweets from a former Supreme Court clerk tried to blame another classmate of Kavanaugh's for the assault. As you know, Kavanaugh has said, quote, "I categorically and unequivocally deny this allegation. I did not do this back in high school or at any time." But this week, one of his friends launched a theory on Twitter, attempting to locate the house where the assault occurred and saying maybe Dr. Ford is just blaming the wrong guy. The source was shocking. Ed Whelan, a former clerk to Justice Antonin Scalia, the president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center, Whelan, who's been involved in helping advise Kavanaugh. He's close friends with both the judge and Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society, who's been supplying the president with names of potential justices to nominate. Whelan tweeted a series of images from Google Maps and Zillow about a possible house where the assault could have taken place. The presentation was slick, it was sophisticated, and then he went so far as to provide the name of a classmate and teammate of Brett Kavanaugh's and publish side-by-side photographs claiming they looked alike so she could have confused them. I couldn't believe that he pointed a finger so specifically at a private citizen. Ford dismissed Whelan's theory in a statement late Thursday saying she knew them both and, quote, "There is zero chance that I would confuse them." Whelan deleted the tweet thread, issued an apology which read, "I made an appalling and inexcusable mistake of judgment in the posting of this tweet thread in a way that identified Kavanaugh's Georgetown prep classmate. I take full responsibility for that mistake, and I deeply apologize for it. I realize that does not undo the mistake." What might have he been thinking? Who else was in the loop? Joining me now is Zach Beecham, senior reporter for Vox, who wrote this piece. Ed Whelan's tweets have created a second Kavanaugh scandal. Zach, this is not Alex Jones we're talking about. This is a guy who went to Harvard College, graduated Phi Beta Kappa, Harvard Law School, Law Review, clerk for Scalia, and is a friend of Kavanaugh. What do you make of it?
Yeah, Whelan is a deeply connected DC political operative. He knows the game, he knows how to play it, and he knows all the players. Most tellingly, in my eyes, he was involved in the confirmation of two Bush-era Supreme Court justices, that is to say Justice Roberts and Justice Alito, and deeply so. So he knows all of the people, and apparently, according to Steve Schmidt, who's a Republican strategist who was involved in those confirmations, Whelan was in the loop on the inner details of Republican strategy there. It's very, very difficult to imagine that he didn't talk to anybody, and indeed, there's been reporting after his tweet storm came out that he spoke to at least one member of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Well, the minute that I saw this the series of tweets, I thought of Orrin Hatch, who told a CNN colleague of mine that maybe this was a case of mistaken identity after he'd spoken to Judge Kavanaugh. Makes me wonder, was this considered to be some kind of ace in the hole by the pro-Kavanaugh forces, and were more in the loop on it?
It's not at all a crazy theory. First of all, we know that Whelan was working with CRC, which is a major PR firm that's big in Republican circles. They ran Swift Boat Veterans for Truth back in the 2004 election. And Orrin Hatch's spokesperson tweeted out earlier this week that people needed to watch Ed Whelan's tweets in the coming days. Now, that's interesting. The spokesperson later denied that he had any idea what was coming, but why would he signpost Whelan's tweets? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy nut myself. I don't have the evidence. Right. I don't want to make any allegations. I don't know anything on the inside. I just know it's publicly been reported. But I can tell you, based on someone who's familiar with the way these things work in D.C., this stinks.
Well, it was also, I would never compound the mistake that Whelan made in this regard by outing the person that he pointed a finger at. But I'll say this, the level of sophistication, I've got the original tweet stream in front of me, you know, the map of the floor plan of the house and the actual staircase, like maybe this is where it took place and so forth. This was very methodically done. It was a very slick presentation.
Yeah, Whelan is by all accounts a very good lawyer and a very good operative. I don't want to make this seem like it was some flyby, you know, the seat of your pants operation. Like, this was really well thought out and planned, but it seems like he was blinded in judgment by the fact that Kavanaugh is a friend and that he's in a lot of trouble, and that he went to great lengths to expand on a really troubling and I think potentially libelous theory.
And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if, in fact, Judge Kavanaugh said to Orrin Hatch, Senator Hatch, it's a case of mistaken identity, Might this be something that Judge Kavanaugh believes? I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question for him to be asked this week, should it all unfold in the Senate Judiciary Committee. You get the final word.
Yeah, that's why in my piece I referred to this as a second scandal, because the question of whether Kavanaugh was aware of potentially illegal action by an ally of his, potentially, because we're not really sure at this point, like that really raises questions about his judgment, his willingness to smear a private citizen, a middle school teacher, to advance his own nomination. That's not the quality you want in a potential Supreme Court justice. So if that's true...
Hey, Zach, one other thing. Thing. A certain network ran with this story, and I'm sure did not spend as much time telling everybody it was bogus as they did putting it out there. And I worry about how many Americans are walking around today saying, well, you know, it was some other guy. After all, I saw the picture. That's just my editorial comment. Anyway, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's check in on your tweets and Facebook comments. Catherine, what do we got? Smirkanish, this is reprehensible. And did Kavanaugh know about this? If he did, then adios, so much sleaziness. Denise, I don't know what he knew. I think he's made denials as to having been in the loop on this. But to go back to my conversation with Dersh, this is an entirely appropriate question for him to be asked this week by the Senate Judiciary Committee. And I just hope they're not all bloviating for their campaign commercials for re-election, but that they get into matters of substance and that they be good listeners. You know what it takes to be a good questioner in a legal setting? To be a good listener.